What's going on, guys? Your boy LQ, Mr. Real Deal Fantasy HQ, and welcome to the RotoBaller Fantasy Sports YouTube channel. Please make sure you guys like and subscribe. And today I'm going to be talking about a Falcons running back, Tyler Allgeier, and his potential fantasy outlook. He might be sneaking into some starting lineups. So I don't want to waste any more time, so let's get right into the episode. Ladies and gentlemen, Tyler Allgeier is a beast waiting to feast. He looked great in week 1, man, putting up 24.4 fantasy points, and this is his 5th game in a row of putting up 90-plus scrimmage yards. I mean, listen, he's aiming for 6 in a row this weekend, and I think he might be able to do it. I mean, he's forcing my hand somewhat of putting him into starting lineups and sneaking him into lineups in some of my leagues because a lot of folks were able to get him into the mid to late round this summer, and he was my number 1 running back handcuff this summer behind Bijan, and he's showing why he has standalone value. I mean, if Sunday was any indication of his usage moving forward, man, this is going to be crazy. He has to go into starting lineups. I mean, Bijan outsnapped him 31-26, which isn't by much, but just for him to get in that involved is pretty great. I mean, both of them put up 20-plus fantasy points, and I'm loving this running back duo as a whole. This might be the best running back duo in football. Allgeier has always been a guy to do more with less. He only had 48% of the snaps last season. I mean, the last time we've seen 2 running backs put up 20-plus fantasy points in the same game for the Falcons was week 5, 2016 with Tevin Coleman and Devontae Freeman. So I think this is another version of once upon a time when we thought it was a good idea to put 2 starting running backs on the same team into lineups. And that was Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. So that kind of panned out well that year. So Allgeier is the reason why he has standalone value is because he's always been that guy. He's always been him. I mean, if we look at last season, 40% of his carries last year were against stacked boxes, and that was the most in the NFL. And he still managed to finish second behind Derrick Henry in yards after contact versus stacked boxes. Also, first in rushing yards over expected, second in rush yards, tied first in yards per carry, all against stacked boxes, minimum 50 carries. Now, listen. Looking ahead at this matchup versus the Packers Sunday, I think it's a great matchup for Bijan and for Tyler Allgeier. It's worth noting that it may be a potential that, Allgeier can be in starting lineups and he might get some targets, might get peppered. He saw 3 catches last week and he had 3 targets. And if we look at 2022, the Packers, they gave up the 7th most rushing yards and the 8th most fantasy points per game to running backs. I mean, last week was interesting to see the Bears utilize all 3 of their running backs in the passing game, which was great. And the Packers ended up giving up the most targets and receptions to running backs in week 1. So I like this game plan going into this week against the Packers. Allgeier isn't a stranger to catching passes either, man. He's caught some passes last season. He only had 17 targets, 16 catches. But if he can get involved and get peppered, even though we know Bijan's primarily going to take on that passing role in this offense, which is fine because we know how explosive Allgeier is. He had 3 rushes that went over 10-plus yards last week, and that's kind of normal for him. He had 21 last season, so this isn't anything shy. And you got that Falcons O-line that's very well put together. I mean, what must remain key for Allgeier is, 1, that Ritter doesn't overstep his role and create turnovers, and his usage must remain key for the rest of this season. It must remain steady where he can be involved in the offense just as much as Bijan. And of course, he must stay healthy. That is the most important thing here, which are all doable things, and of course, if this offense remains how they were last week, to be able to march down the field and put some points on the board and create some opportunities, that would definitely be great for Tyler Allgeier. He's in store for a big year if this offense can keep on scoring points and keep on keeping him involved. I mean, Bijan only had 1 carry in the red zone last week, and Allgeier took on the other 4 that were inside the 10. So if this red zone duty is primary Tyler Allgeier, I don't know how he doesn't sneak into starting lineups. You might be forcing your hand and taking a guy out that you thought was going to be a weekly starter, or maybe he is, but Allgeier's just putting up these points, and you can't help but to put him in the starting lineup because, again, he's always been that guy. If you ask me, my opinion is the Falcons never needed Bijan Robinson. But hey, now they have one of the strongest running back duos in football. So I like that Tyler Allgeier has standalone value because, again, you got him in the mid to late rounds. So listen, you ain't really paid that much for him. So to have this gold mine, this diamond guy sitting here, man, you got to be happy that you have him on your roster. So This wraps up another great episode, a quick episode about Tyler Allgeier and why he has standalone value. But man, make sure you guys like and subscribe to the YouTube channel at RotoBaller Fantasy Sports. You guys can follow me at Real Deal Fantasy on all social media platforms. Until next time.